Dave, how you doing today?
Uh, Making chicken for Turkey Day.
Okay, chicken Eve for you then.
Yeah, um, uh, we're making our brine right now, and I'll smoke them in the morning. So
I,
other than
I
that,
can't.
working.
We're down to 32 teams across the state and
Yeah,
three or four different classifications right now. This is the elite eights for each classification, and I was going through it. I've seen. I think in the last 6 or 7 years, I've seen 21 of the 32 teams that are still playing right now.
right.
So that's usually a sign that they're pretty darn good or pretty perennially good.
Yeah.
So we went to a slobber knocker this last Friday night, and it was not the game that I expected. How about you?
Well, it's not the game I expected. As I mentioned at the game at halftime, I said, this score. There's Gary. Um,
Hey, Dale.
he,
Hey, Jim.
Hey, Gary.
hey, um, the score was at halftime, Jim, was what I was expecting it to be, approximately at the end of the game. So
Right.
I think in that regard, not the game we expected. I did go in expecting a close game, um, a one score kind of game, but certainly not a one score game that without overtime had such high scoring. No. Uh-uh.
I think there was either one or two punts in the first half, and that
Yeah,
really surprised me.
the teams punted very rarely.
Right.
I think both teams punted okay when they did punt. I think there was a Grimsley punt that didn't net too much, but overall, I, that part of the game, I thought if there was going to be an advantage, it would lie with Huff. And though there may have been an advantage, it really didn't show its the 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 style of game didn't really let the kicking game play a huge part in the game.
I agree. I thought Huff controlled the tempo in the first half. I mean, they marched down the field that first time. Um,
Hmm.
you know, uh, Grimsley actually got the ball, didn't do anything. Huff marched down the field. Grimsley marched down the field. Huff marched down the field. Then Grimsley did. I mean, it was just kind of back and forth for a while.
Yeah,
But just it was a weird one, though. I mean, it wasn't that either team played bad defense. Both of them had great defensive players, but the offenses were really clicking. But if you listen to the fans at the stadium, at least on our side, a lot of them think it was less about Grimsley's offense and more about the referees. Um, Dale, there was. I know we're going to talk about that. It's a hot topic about how to handle this.
yeah. Jim, the first thing I'll say is that just in the scope of, and there was one tweet that was thrown at me this past week that said something along the lines of not only did they have to play players, but there was additional help on the field kind of thing, with officials. That was one statement that I saw. That's very paraphrasing. I don't remember exactly. Wording was slightly different than that, but that was what was attempting to be said. And um, I hate to disagree with people, but I don't think the winner was determined by officials. Um,
Right.
but
I agree with that.
you're right. When you lose, though, you're going to point fingers, and I think that's a common thing to do. But Jim, throughout my life, I've seen too many situations where coaches complain, but they don't know the rules. Fans complain, but they really don't know the rules. The fans have a far worse view than do the officials of plays. So I think I try to put all that into my context of a game. And when I hear people, making the comments and just kind of figure, you know, normally it's just stuff you hear from a distance. We heard it up close.
Yeah, there were certain people that were avid Huff supporters that there's one thing about disagreeing with the refs, but there's another thing about how you disagree and how you handle your frustrations with the referees. And I wouldn't even say it's a fine line. And what we saw cross the line, in my personal view, last week,
well,
it was way uncomfortable for a lot of people. It took the fun out of it for the kids, for the fans, probably for the coaches too. I know there's certain people that had to be embarrassed by the behavior.
With what we saw, it didn't just cross the line; it jumped over the line, and when you look backwards, you couldn't see the line. And here's why I say that. Anybody that is standing on a football sideline on a Friday night or Saturday, or if you happen to be lucky on a Sunday, this rule applies everywhere. Outside of the box, when you're outside of the box, the coaching box area, where the players all stand, when you're outside of that area, your mouth's supposed to stay shut. You can't coach, you can't cheer, and you certainly can't argue with officials. You're not allowed to cheer for your own team.
You also got to stay outside of the boundaries of the football field. I saw several people last week that were on the line, in the ref's way and stuff like that.
Yeah, the biggest thing is that and officials allow some leeway with this, but in our normal Friday night games, we have wing officials that are where a side judge would normally be. They're called wing officials because we only have 5 officials. So instead of having side judges, we have a wing official who has to cover basically that whole area there. And either one of them, they have to have area to not just run on the field, but to run off the field. Because they try to stay out of the way of players, but still have the view that they are supposed to have, which can push a side judge and a wing official out of bounds by a yard or two. So they have to have that room to be able to move not just in bounds, but out of bounds. Thus, the normal place that you can stand and not get in trouble. College fields have it actually drawn. You go to say Carter Finley or someplace like that, it's drawn because they're not playing soccer in there as well normally. So it's not a soccer field transposed on top of a football field. They have that boundary drawn where you have to be. And it's quite a ways deeper than what we're allowed to get away with in high school. But in high school, if you keep yourself outside of the soccer line, where the soccer out of bounds is drawn, that's where you typically want to be. You want to be behind that. You can look down to where the box is, and you can see where the actual line is that would probably be the minimum that officials would allow you to come up to. What we saw and what I see is it wasn't just Friday night. I see it every Friday night. There's people intruding in on that, and they're like right on the sidelines, standing right in the way of an official.
And these people, the acts, so their behavior is so boorish, and then they're the same people that complain about how our students lack discipline. And you know what? Our kids look at us. They see
Yeah.
mom and dad or teacher or somebody. You know what? They're going to say, "Well, you know what? I can be this just as disrespectful to the ref or to the teacher
Uh-huh.
or whomever." It's if you don't feel like you can control your emotions, stay the heck away from the sidelines, and don't ever try to show up the refs. You know that one guy was like, "Show them that video." I'm like, "You don't do that. You don't show up a ref."
Yeah, so I told him, and I don't know who that individual is, what that individual status is with Huff, um, teacher, some other sport coach, a parent that was able to get down on the sideline. I don't know what that individual status was, but that individual, after the touchdown, that was, it's really hard to tell, but the view seems to indicate to me that the runner got to the one. I couldn't tell if he stuck the ball out because the official kept making, didn't
See,
keep making it.
With my eye, I saw it like he was reaching out. I thought the ref, I didn't have the ability for I didn't have the replay ability like we did after the fact. The naked eye looked like it. When I saw yours, it looked like he didn't cross the line.
Right. So what the official said, the official was communicating with us because we had a friendly,
a good rapport. He's from great guy
rapport the entire night. So
from the
he
southeast.
had no, yeah, exactly. So he had no problem communicating with us. And I think he heard me say to you, I don't think he got in. And he told, he came over and he told me, he said, well, the ball got in. And I obviously I'm not going to argue with him.
Yeah.
I believe my comment to him was, I'll look at it later. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah. Very respectful way. Yeah.
Right. And so we're standing there. They're waiting to kick off. Right. So they hadn't got everything organized yet to kick off. He's standing back there near the flag at the goal line. We're standing our normal distance off of that flag talking to him. And this individual comes up and gets right up beside me. And so he's yards away from the official and in an area that you're not supposed to communicate at all. But again, the official initiated communication with us. You and I had both been communicating with him throughout the night. So we never had any confrontational communications. I just don't do that with officials.
And the guy knew all about regional refereeing. You remember that?
Yeah. So I asked him, one of the questions I asked him was, oh yeah, that guy. Yeah. So, I'll finish the thing of what the guy was doing. He was cursing and saying he's a liar because the official, unfortunately, the official did speak back to the guy and said, it doesn't matter where his body was. The ball is what has to cross the line. That's what the official said.
And he's right about that.
And he's right about that. And the guy kept saying, he's lying to you. He's lying to you. And anyway, so I had told this individual earlier that they were complaining about, well, this happened last year, and this happens at Grimsley, and I'm like, well, last year was third round too, by the way. In the third round of playoffs, what happens is you don't get the local refereeing association to assign officials to that game. So nobody out of Guilford County assigned those officials. Those officials are signed on a regional basis and come from all over, and are not from typically. I'd say I haven't asked about every playoff game I've ever attended. Have I asked, was there any possibility, like I'm up at East Lincoln last year, is there a possibility that a Gaston County official was in that game? I don't think so. I think that's one of the reasons the NCHSAA does the officiating this way, is to keep there from being any kind of implied bias in the officiating of the game. And so we asked this official prior to this situation with the touchdown. I'd asked him, "Where did you officiate the week before?" Wasn't the question, was he regional? Because I knew he was. That he wasn't from the area. I just was curious, because in playoffs, I'll talk to guys like the guys from that officiated that East Lincoln game. They came from up around Raleigh. It was a long drive to go officiate a game. So I was asking him, "What game did you call last week?" And he said it was 71st, wasn't it?
It was 71st because it was round two before the.
Yeah, it was a Fayetteville game, and he told us during that conversation that I think he was pointing out where the officials were from, and he kept saying Cumberland County, so they may have all been from Cumberland County.
It was southeast North Carolina.
Right, exactly.
Southeast. I think there was somebody from Sampson County and so forth. And
so what happened, Jim, about what you said when I was explaining that, and I said, these officials aren't assigned. Yeah, right. Said they're not. They're from out of area. Yeah, right. And I just kept going on about the regional, the way officials get assigned. Yeah, right. And then finally he said, "Well, I know that." I'm like,
I know all about regional officiating and stuff. Yeah.
So, Jim, the bad thing about it, I made a comment on Twitter, and someone responded that officials. I just made it a comment. One of the comments made by someone. I'm not going to call certain people out by name. There's no need to, but there was some concern that raised that maybe these guys shouldn't be officiating anymore, and certainly there was a lot of this whole concept about how officials should be punished. And my response was, the first thing we need to do is start respecting officials. The second thing it was leading into, we need to have play review.
Yeah, I disagree with that.
And I said, what first thing we need to do is we need to start respecting officials. The second thing we need to do is we should strive to get 7 officials at every game throughout the entire season, before we even begin to start talking about play review. Now, the NFHS has or did approve about 3 years ago, I think it was 3-4 years ago, they approved the use of states to use anybody who follows the NFHS, which NCHSAA does. Anyone that adheres to their rules and policies can use play review in the playoffs. But there's so much around even beginning to implement play review. One individual responded, to which a coach responded, don't say the quiet thing out loud or something. his response was, well, he didn't say everybody. He said most teams have huddle. We could show them our huddle stuff. You've got to have, there are standards that have to be set.
Well, it's got to be calibrated. It can't be altered. It's
exactly.
I mean, right now with AI, you can make it look any way you want to.
Well, I think that's certainly true, but let's say with huddle, there has to be a standard though, and the standard involves a lot of things. What devices would we be using? Whose cameras would be deployed for such review? Have the officials been trained to do review? I mean, you set standards and guidelines of how things are done. So you get a structure and you got a checklist that you can go off and say, all of this meets these things. So yes, we can deploy and use play review. You can't just all of a sudden start saying, like this guy was trying to say, show them your phone, show them the video. That's not the way it works. And just people showing their huddle, their iPad with huddle on it. Does every school have that? No, not everybody's using huddle.
No.
So if you do it for one, you have to do it for all. You can't sporadically have this deployed either. So
I've never been a fan of instant replay anyway. It slows down the game. I'm a traditionalist.
Right.
A lot of times, teams that like to have motion, speed, repetition, faster. You have a 7-minute replay, it just takes you right out of the game.
So I'm with you on on those aspects of what review can do. The one thing I will say though is, and maybe the solution is to go to 9 officials or something, like in the NFL and college, go to 9 or 11 or, officials. Maybe you put more officials, but at some point you're going to have too many bodies on the field. And the reason you'd want to have more officials would be more eyes if you didn't have review, because players are so fast and they're so athletic these days that a player can make a move, say a defensive back can make a move up in the air to knock a ball away and never touch the defender, but would look like he's all over him. Thus, to be able to see that and interpret that may be hard in the initial bang of a play, but more eyes might help with that. I understand what you're saying, Jim.
Right.
Without question. Gary, what do you think?
Oh, I agree with you. Think about with officials, I've heard it been said, maybe we have got a shortage of officials, they're hard to get, but what I would agree with you on about getting, more officials about on the field to, if you could do that, so to help officiate games. But yeah, I'm following what you're saying and all. So
yeah, we face an official crisis, and we officially face a crisis with having enough officials. I'll say this in some manner that gets it out right. And I'm not going to say that it's the entire problem, but one of the big problems is the abuse that officials take. And it's not something that they have to accept. As somebody mentioned to me on Twitter, he said, it's part of the American, culture of things that complaining about officials, and these high school officials don't have to do it. It's not their primary job.
They lose money.
And say again?
A lot of them lose money when they have to travel.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
you figure those guys, I don't know what they get paid for compensation for driving. But that guy drove from Cumberland County to
that's 2 hours right there.
Guilford
easily.
County, exactly. That's a long drive. That's 4 hours of their life just to go call a game and make a little over $100. I think they make 105 or 10, somewhere in that range for playoffs. They make a little more than they do during the regular season. To be an official in the playoffs, you've had to have scored high enough to even call a first-round game. Not all officials get first-round games. Some officials don't get to call any playoff games. And then we need half as many officials for round 2 than we did for round 1. So only the ones that graded the highest, continue to grade the highest, get to advance onward if they want to advance onward in the playoffs. My guess is, Jim, I should have asked this question, but most, if not all, of those officials that we had Friday night call D3, D2, and maybe D1 games as well.
Right.
I got to be really good friends with an official that ran a forum that I had that was called Ask the Official, and he no longer, for the last 3 years, he's not called high school games, but while he was calling high school games, when I first met him and got to know him, he was calling the Catawbas and the Lenore Rhines, and now he's calling ACC games. So he's working that crew of officials. So,
well, I'll tell you what. More, just a little bit about the game. Just one thing: those lights at Jameson Stadium was one of the best atmospheres I've seen before. With every time Grimsley scores a touchdown, the lights go off and the LED lights go on, the blue lights and everything. That was really neat.
The first time I've seen something like that was at Scotland, not Scotland, but Richmond. They've got that down there. They can, because you can instantly turn lights off and then instantly turn them on. There's none of this warm up or anything. They're instantly bright. As soon as you turn them on, bam, you got lights, and they can turn them off and turn them on. And as I mentioned with Richmond, they do a nice ritual of the introduction of their players by doing that. And so I saw it in a playoff setting. So it was either the last game of the regular season or one of the early playoff games. It was when at kickoff, it's already dark, so when they turn off the lights, it's dark in there. Not going to say pitch black, but it's pretty close. And it wasn't quite as dark for Grimsley, but yeah. Gary, has Mooresville added LED lighting yet?
Not that I know of. They haven't. Also,
I don't know that we have any schools around us that have LED lighting. There's none in Charlotte that I'm aware of.
None in White County.
I don't know that there's any west of us.
You know what Grimsley has? I think Grimsley actually, or not Grimsley, but Page has LEDs also.
Do they?
They just don't do the bells and whistles like Grimsley does.
I don't know why the newer schools here are not getting built with LED lighting. Where
To me,
Charlotte's one of the newest
to me, it's a
stadiums,
good
they don't
cost
have
effect.
LED.
It's
Say
good
again?
to me, it's good cost efficiency using those LEDs.
Oh
Those
yeah,
lights are light better.
they light better.
They're more
They are,
efficient.
they're more efficient. They are brighter. Um, it's a better light than an incandescent type of lighting. You don't get that yellow hue.
You
Um,
don't have the light pollution.
exactly, and got to be easier to maintain.
So
So yeah,
one
I
thing I
don't
was
know.
going to mention about that game though, going into that game, I had Grimsley as my favorite out of the 4A West. That has now
Uh-huh.
changed.
Yeah, so going into that game, I had Huff as my favorite. That, without question, has to change for me. But it's not. I didn't swap them for Grimsley.
I mean, Grimsley is really fast. Uh, the question I have though is, are they physical enough to handle a team like Butler again? I mean, or
So,
handle Butler or Rollsville. I know they beat Rollsville at the beginning of the season.
uh-huh.
I just don't know they're physical enough at this point.
I don't know if their defense is good enough.
And you're going to have to be
Huff,
physical to stop Butler's offense.
well, Huff has a good offense, but that is not their thing. Um, and though I do have to admit their thing was defense, and they gave up a lot of points. So Huff couldn't stop the run to save their life, especially in the
And,
second half Friday
and
night.
even when they knew it was coming, that running back from
Exactly.
Grimsley is something special. So I do give Grimsley props with the running game. Very
Yeah,
good. But that was
22 is tough.
yeah,
Jim, that was a second down play, wasn't it?
it was.
And so somebody made a comment to me that if that isn't called a touchdown, that's 7 points. It would have been a tie ball game. No. They
Grimsley
had
could have
another
scored
shot
again.
at the goal line, and then they probably kick a field goal and go up by 10 instead of
Yeah.
7. And then, because the circumstances are different, does Huff return a kickoff? Because that's how Huff scored their last 7 points, was with kick return.
Yeah.
So don't make those kind of comments, people.
Yeah, it was one of those comments that just made you feel uncomfortable. The one thing I'll say about Grimsley's, I thought their secondary did a really good job. I mean, they had 3 picks, and but I think some of that has to go with there was some miscommunication in Huff's passing game several times. You see the quarterback throw left, and the runner or the receiver goes right or goes straight.
That happened
And
one time. The last one was the ball's thrown well. It's a touchdown, but the ball was underthrown, and the defender called it as if he was a receiver in stride. He just held his hands up and called it like a receiver would in stride. So, yeah, you got to make those plays. I don't think they made turnovers per se, but they were able to get the turnover. And when I say that, I think the first one that happened, Jim, was going from our left to right down towards the end zone, and the receiver went one way and the ball was thrown the other way. Those kinds of things. But yeah, you and I both probably have the same favorite now, and that'd be Butler.
Yeah.
I do think, and quite honestly, I favor Weddington against Grimsley Friday night.
Should be an interesting one.
I think so. I think we'll talk about these games, but yeah, it did change my view of 4A and who's going to come out, because I have thought all along that Butler has the most complete team. But
Grizzly Huff were different types of teams. To me, they were pretty much equal. I mean, I think they played 10 times. I think you might have a split 5-5, you know.
I'd agree with that. Yeah.
So, Dale, would you want to go to the brackets next, or?
Yeah, we can. Unless, Gary, you've got anything you want to add to what we just said.
I was going to say that Grimsley and Huff game, I predicted that to be a close game. I said, like I said, I'm telling somebody, I thought Grimsley would be kind of similar to last year. It'd be a close game. I had them to win, maybe by one score, and that's what it ended up being and all. So
Yeah.
I think that this next game and all could be like it was last year. Remember they beat Weddington, by 1 point, and we could well see that again and all. I think we could see a good toss-up in that game, to my opinion. Also,
right. The one thing I'm going to say about the Grimsley Huff score, it really could have been uglier than 7 points.
Yeah.
Because the fourth quarter, really the second half, for the most part, Grimsley outplayed. And they outplayed them by more than 7 points.
I agree.
So it could have really. Honestly, Jim asked me at one point, when do you usually leave games that, I don't remember the exact wording, but it's along the lines of, when do you usually leave games when they get out of hand?
Well, yeah, I was kind of wondering it, because at one time I thought Grimsley was just going to take off, and then I'm glad I stayed. But
right.
I'll tell you what, I waited in that parking lot 15 minutes to get out of there. That was the craziest thing.
But Gary, that's how bad the game was actually looking in person. That, and I told Jim, I don't, if they get to be out of hand, then I don't stick around.
Right.
I don't have any blood in a game,
Right.
meaning I don't have a child playing. I'm not going to stick around and watch a team get, beaten in the woodshed, so to speak. And that was starting to look like it was going to happen.
Right.
Kudos to Huff for not quitting, but
yeah, that was a long night. So I got the 1As up.
Yep.
In Tarboro, they beat Southeast Halifax last week, 36-0. And Dale and I were on the sidelines, and it would be like, it was like 14-0 or 22-0, and it was like getting in the third quarter, and we're like, gosh, Tarboro's not having a good night, and they still beat them 36-0, and we're like, we were expecting more. It's just shows you how dominant Tarboro is.
Exactly. I remember early on asking you or saying something along that line of, they're just not having a good night, are they? Yeah, and they still win 36-0, which is a blowout.
Even Tarboro can have their off weeks, I guess.
I guess.
They play East Bladen next week, or this coming Friday. East Bladen beats Rosewood 47-14, which I thought East Bladen would handle Rosewood pretty easily. Tarboro East Bladen, I think East Bladen will hold. They'll be down a little bit in the first half, and I think Tarboro will just open it up in the second half. I just don't see much to look at on this game.
No, I don't either. Now, Jim, I will say that my pre-playoff brackets here are right on point. This is who I expected to be playing in the fourth round, East Bladen and Tarboro. And, of course, I picked Tarboro to advance on. East Bladen may be playing a little better than I thought they would be playing. I just don't see a lot of competition in the East to begin with. And thus, let's say really good teams, which East Bladen is probably a really good team, while Tarboro is an excellent team, the top of the tier.
They're
And
a
East Bladen
dynasty.
is, yeah, exactly. East Bladen is that next level down, but that gap. I mean, this game is probably a 2 to 3 score at least game, Jim. Don't you think?
Right. I
Maybe
was gonna say
more.
I was gonna say 3 to 4.
Yeah, I mean, it could be 28 points easily.
Right.
Even though East Bladen may be the second or third best team out of 1A East.
The one thing I'll say with East Bladen that's on their side,
Uh,
Tarboro, a lot of times they don't play their best game the day after Thanksgiving. I've been to a
okay.
couple of games. I remember one year Southwest Onslow came in there and just ran all over Tarboro. Another time, Tarboro really struggled to win a game that they should have had put out in the first half. So that's something to keep in mind. But I think Tarboro pulls it out. Now going
Gary,
down to
I just want to
well,
see if Gary had any thoughts.
Yeah, I'm with y'all on about Tarboro. I'm not familiar with all the East teams, but
Okay.
I feel like I feel like that Tarboro is would be the team to beat. They seem like they would be the team to go all the way. But just sticking with who they playing this week, and I like their chances, to win it.
So, Gary, I'll tell you, I got them winning the state championship. But
It
that's
I did
just me.
too.
it wouldn't surprise me.
So the second game, Wilson Prep, they handled Northmore with ease, beat them 42-15. That
Yeah.
game should, I mean, yeah, I thought it was going to be a close one. I picked Northmore, you
Uh-huh.
picked Wilson Prep. I don't think either one of us saw a 27-point spread.
No. Is Wilson Prep better than we thought they would be? I don't know. I question that they're as good as West Columbus because I do pick West Columbus, but Jim, I didn't think they would beat Northmore like
And
they beat them. No.
right, that was a statement win. And West Columbus, they beat Lakewood 42-0. I don't think Lakewood is as tough as Northmore, but still 42-0 is that's a running clock. So that's in the third round to get a running clock. You got to be pretty darn good. In this
Right.
game right here, I'm gonna take West Columbus in this one. I think there's a little bit more knowns with West Columbus than there are with Wilson Prep.
A little bit more. There might be a lot more. I don't know. I'm picking West Columbus as well, obviously, but while I felt like Wilson Prep had good shots to get to this point, and they've done it in a fashion I didn't expect they would do it in. So maybe they have some unknowns too that are going to be shown, but we're together on this one.
Gary, you got any thoughts?
I don't have enough knowledge on which ones to pick on that, so I'll just lean on y'all's thoughts on that.
Okay.
So, Gary, I would say the safe pick might be West Columbus because they are more known. People traditionally know more about West Columbus than they do Wilson Prep. So that's just
historically West Columbus hasn't been all that great. South Columbus used to be the team in Columbus County, and South Columbus has gone off the radar. So this year, East Columbus, for the first time ever, they've been around since 1991 or 92. They beat South Columbus.
But historically, though, Wilson Prep, what did I know? Really nothing.
No, we don't have anything really.
Exactly.
They've been around for a few years, and that's it. Now in the East, Robbinsville, they came back from behind. One time, Dale, we were on the sidelines. Wayne County was up 24-8.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, Robbinsville wins the game.
Yeah, 24-8 was a shock because I thought this was going to be another game. Now, it turned out to be a one-score game, and I thought it'd be a one-score game, but I didn't think it'd get in the 20s. I thought it was going to be like the previous game.
We thought it was going to be way down there. I thought it'd be like a 17-14 game or 16-14. And look at that. It was a lot of momentum swing. And Robbinsville will host North Rowan. North Rowan, they had a shootout with Mountain Heritage, 48-39. A little bit surprised by this score too. Mountain Heritage, they've always had a good offense, but they've the last several years have been known more about their defense, to be honest with you. And North Rowan scored 48 points. Now the question is, how are those boys from Spencer going to do in the Smoky Mountains over in Graham County? How are they going to handle Robbinsville? That's a hard place to win. I got to give Robbinsville the edge because they're playing at the Oaks.
Robinsonville, the one of the places that dynasties live. So there's a lot. That's a lot to have to go up there and play them. They're rightfully a number one. I think their win over Swain, I picked Swain to win it the second time round. I think beating Swain twice in the season is a huge statement. Yeah, I don't know how, maybe the Spencer boys can hop up the road just a little bit, get some Lexington barbecue before they before they hit this. Maybe that'll help fuel them.
How about you, Gary? What's your thoughts?
I think I like Robbinsville. North Ram made it further than what I thought they did, and they're playing some good ball. But I think that, Robbinsville's got that good running back and all that. I think they're going to be just a little bit too much for North Ram. I'll take Robbinsville in this one.
You know what, Gary? I picked
Yep.
North Rowan to make it this far, but then I did pick Swain County to beat Robbinsville. So, oh well.
So we'll go down to the bottom side of the East. Eastern Randolph, they beat Thomasville 40-19. And Mount Airy, Mount Airy had kind of a close game for a while with Murphy. I mean, it was something like 26-20 or something like that, Mount Airy. And then next thing you know, it was 64-26. I mean, Mount Airy just turned it on. And the thing about it was the first 10 games in the regular season plus 2 games in the playoffs. So the last 12 games, Murphy had allowed only 25 points. Or, excuse me, Mount Airy had only allowed 25 points.
Uh-huh.
Murphy scores 26 points against them. So Murphy has a very good team, but I'm going to tell you right now, Mount Airy is on a roll. I save whatever you want to call it. I got to go with Mount Airy on this. I know Eastern Randolph's a good team. They're not that far from me in Ramseur, but got to go with Mount Airy.
I hate seeing Eastern Randolph beat Thomasville like that. I did pick them to win it, but I was hoping Thomasville would show up a little bit better. Again, I picked Mount Airy over Murphy, but we discussed this last week. We felt like that game did have potential of being competitive, that Mount Airy couldn't overlook Murphy. And that showed for a while in the game, but obviously the final score says you weren't even close. What a statement. I think that's a huge statement win right there. But more so than Eastern Randolph's big win over Thomasville.
Right.
I think Murphy might be a better team than Thomasville.
Yeah, I agree. So you're taking Mount Airy?
Oh yeah, no. Mount Airy's the team that I penciled in to go all the way. So yeah.
Gotcha. How about you, Gary? What's your thoughts?
Have y'all? I'm not sure if y'all seen Mount Airy's running game, but I've seen some videos. They're really impressive and all, and I think that they're the stronger team. This could well be maybe one of their toughest games so far in the playoffs. I don't know, but I like Mount Airy's to win this game, and also we'll see.
I don't think there's any question this is their toughest game. Though Murphy put up a roadblock. If Mount Airy beats Eastern Randolph like they beat Murphy, then I might have to rethink how that Tarboro game will go.
Well, that's going to be a good one.
Mount Airy and Tarboro?
It's going to be a good one. I
Oh,
think.
I know it will. But if
Hmm.
Mount Airy beats Eastern Randolph by 40 points, uh, I'm gonna have to think about they might can beat Tarboro.
Oh, I know. It's both those teams have incredible defenses. They have really good offenses, so it's going to be interesting. So, Gary, who you got on this one?
Which one?
Mount
Mount
Airy.
Airy, Eastern Randolph.
Oh, I got Mount Airy. Yeah, Mount Airy. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a 1-2 score, maybe two score. I think it should be a 2-score game. That's what I'll say. But I don't want to count Eastern Randolph totally out.
So, I'll tell you what, we'll shift gears. We'll go to the 2A. We'll go to the 2A East. Last week, Clinton all over Southeast Alamance, 42-7.
Hmm.
And down in Rocky Mount, Nash Central beats Hereford 71-68. My next door neighbor's son actually officiated this Nash Central Hereford game. He
Right?
said there was no penalties in the first quarter, and the first quarter lasted an hour and 15 minutes.
Wow. No penalties, but took forever to complete.
Right.
Wow. That's over twice as long as that quarter should have been. Hmm.
And Clinton, the thing about it is at this point, defenses win. Nash Central might feel really good about beating Hertford County, and they should. Hertford County is a very good team.
Right?
I just don't know if they're going to score 68 points against Clinton. And I guarantee you, Clinton is not going to give up 68 points to Nash Central. But I got to go with
Right.
Clinton this game. I just think it's a no-brainer at this point.
So, Jim, my brackets said that these two teams would meet, but my bracket also said that Clinton would advance out of this game, and I think that's still the case. I think Nash Central's had a great playoff run, although I do think I know beating Hereford County's good, great, but they gave up a lot of points,
Yeah.
and I know they scored a lot, but they gave up a lot, and they better be able to score a lot because Clinton may shut that down. And
Down in
Nash
Hosky, the
Central might.
county's
Yeah, go ahead.
the,
I'm sorry.
that in Hosky, their county has changed name. It's no longer Hertford. It's Hertford because there's no D in that county's name anymore. You
Oh,
lose the
is there
D.
not? I
I'm
didn't know
joking.
that.
I'm joking. There's no D and there's no defense. There's no
Oh.
D in Hertford anymore. So,
Good one. Good one, Jim. Hertford. Yeah,
Gary, you
Hertford. Okay.
got any thoughts on this one?
I like Clinton on this one.
Okay. So Whiteville all over Southwest Edgecombe, 44-8. This was
Yeah.
a eye-opening one for me. That
Same
one
here.
really surprised me. I was expecting a very close game,
Yeah.
and
Nothing like that. Exactly.
this game was an eye-opening too. Northeastern beating Princeton 62-53, but for different reasons. I thought Northeastern's defense had progressed where they wouldn't give up more than about 35 points to Princeton,
Right.
and that kind of surprised me. And before last week, I'd probably take Northeastern in this matchup. Right now, Whiteville. How do you say Whiteville?
Whiteville. Whiteville.
Whiteville. I'm gonna take
Yeah.
Whiteville in this game here.
Yeah. If you're from down there or down over there, that's the way they'd say it.
Down yonder.
Well, my brackets say that Northeastern advances, and I'm less confident of that. And I can't change so my brackets are what they are, and they're not going to change. I can say I might have a different opinion, and thus I will say that when I came into this, I felt like Northeastern was the strongest team by far in this part of the bracket, but now Whiteville looks like they are they're on par with them, really close to them. Thus, this game is going to be a nail biter. I'd be shocked if it's another, 100+ point game. Um, I think if anybody can score that kind of points, Northeastern is one of the teams that can do it. But yeah, I'm taking Northeastern to advance on. Jim, are you saying you're taking Whiteville?
I'm taking Whiteville based on defense. Defense
Okay.
wins championships for my book. How about you, Gary? What's your thoughts?
I think I'll go with Whiteville on that. I'm with you about the defense and all. So yeah.
Okay. Dale doesn't
Okay,
feel good.
let's go to the 2A West here. Last week, Reesville they were struggling a little bit against Brevard. They won 41-20. It's they pulled it out, but that first half was pretty darn close. And Bunker Hill Monroe. Bunker Hill got up to a big lead, got a 14-0 lead. Monroe came back. Monroe scores a touchdown, goes for two, doesn't convert. Bunker Hill wins by a point. This is Bunker Hill's undefeated. Reesville's lost one game. They lost to Eastern Alamance. Neither team has played what I consider a strong schedule. I know that some people will disagree with me. They haven't. Neither one's played a weak schedule. It's just not anything like a Wallace Rose Hill where you play 3A, 4A teams. But I got to go with Reesville in this. I think the home field advantage is going to win out. And I also think Reesville is another dynasty. They're
That's
used to going to the fourth round.
Exactly. Jim, so I picked Reesville to come out of this game. I did not expect Bunker Hill to be here. I did expect Monroe to be here.
Right.
I will say that Bunker Hill's second and third round wins are good wins, or they're wins against good teams. I think Monroe's more like in the neighborhood of a very, very good team to a great team. And
right.
I think that Burns is a good team, a really
right.
good team. So beating anybody out of Cleveland County is remarkable.
Oh yeah, these right here are self-esteem wins right here. I mean,
exactly. Those
Bunker Hill's proven they can beat good teams, really good teams.
Yeah, I think their playoff run looks better than Reedsville's playoff run.
Oh, it's by no doubt. I mean,
right?
Brevard. So, I mean, I don't think anybody's going to confuse Brevard with Monroe or with Burns. And exactly. I mean, West Stokes, forget about it. Madison, no, Madison.
No,
there's no way.
No. So, but I do. I don't know. I may be wrong about Bunker Hill and may be wrong about Reesville because Reesville hasn't really been pressed, and Bunker Hill has come through. But my brackets picked at the beginning of the season or beginning of the playoffs picked Reesville to go to the regional. Bunker Hill is one game exceeded my expectations and beat the team that I thought was the best team out of the West. So, Jim, I'm not going to be shocked if Bunker Hill beats Reedsville. I'll be a little surprised, minor surprise.
I think that's kind of how I am. Gary, what's your thoughts on this one?
Well, before the season began, I had Reedsville going all the way, and they could well do it. But I'm like y'all. Bunker Hill has been a surprising team, and they could well challenge Reedsville into a close game. But I'm going to go with Reedsville. It wouldn't surprise me to be by one score, but I'm going with Reedsville on this game.
So going down to the bottom part of the 2A West. Last week, Forest Hills beats Community School of Davison 48-21. And this next game here, Shelby-Salisbury, this game was pretty much nip and tuck. And then Shelby just kind of pulled away from Salisbury, beat them 38-21. And I picked Shelby to win that game.
You did, yes.
And this right here, this Forest Hills game, this is one I'm going out on a limb for. It's... On paper, Shelby's the better team. I think Shelby's been more challenged. I think they have as good of talent as anybody in the 2A classification. But there's an intangible about Forest Hills that I saw with my eyes. It's just hard to explain. And I'll probably, good chance I'm wrong, but I'm going to pick Forest Hills to win this game.
Yeah, I knew you would. I knew you would Friday night after I heard they won. I didn't think there would be any question who you were going to pick for this game. I had picked Shelby to advance out of this game. And that was before seeing Shelby. So, when I did my brackets early, I had Shelby coming out of this game. I did not have Forest Hills here. I had Forest Hills losing to Community School of Davidson. But after the second round game, I felt like that was a game Forest Hills, could win. And now as we come into this game, I got to tell you, my feelings about Shelby are far higher, or my thoughts about Shelby are far higher than they were before the playoffs started. After having seen them, I see a lot of that intangible stuff that you see. I see a lot of that that dynasty that is Shelby that shined through. So it could be a good game, but I'm picking Shelby here.
All right, Gary, who you got on this game?
Okay, I was first of all, I was at that Salisbury and Shelby game last week, and I felt like what I saw it was Shelby's better than what the scores showed. There were, a couple instances where they could have had scores, anyway. But what I did see, I felt like they also saw Shelby is a team that seems like they're peaking out at the right time. They played, I will say this, they played a lot better the second half. And so somebody asked me who I thought was going to win. I told them I said I felt like Shelby was going to win. I gave him a 2-touchdown win, so he ended up winning by 17. So, but I'm going to take Shelby in this one. Maybe close, but I'm going to go with Shelby.
All right.
Anybody going to go to this game? This could be a good game to go see.
That's going to be in
I'm
Cleveland
not.
County.
I don't think I am. I think I'm going to Independence and Butler, but that'd be a pretty interesting game to go to. Brittany, you guys have got to be happy, without question. You're in a good position. You got a tough game coming up, but you're in a very good position. Gary, what I saw in Shelby when they played Lincolnton was they got better even in that game as the game went on. They just continued to show dominance and confidence and all those other championship trademarks.
So we'll switch over to the 3A East. Last week, Havelock beat Rose 20-6. And in a hit me with your best shot moment, Northern Nash beat Scotland 45-44. And Dale, we were on the sidelines. That game was going back and forth. And
yes.
That was, if you pick Scotland like I did, or you pick Northern Nash like Dale did, it was a coin flip. I mean, it was one of those that I knew going into this game it was going to be a close one.
Right.
Havelock Northern Nash, I expect a very close one too. I'm picking Havelock, and that's just because it's a safe pick. But don't be surprised Northern Nash wins this game.
It's the pick that I made at the start of the playoffs. And like I've said with some other programs, I may have felt like they could get to this point. but they seem to be playing a little better than was thought they would be playing at this point. But Havelock is, I don't know. They're not just the number one seed. They really are playing like a number one seed. So that's
Right.
a tough game for Northern Nash to come in there and win. I Havelock.
Gary, what's your thoughts?
I believe I'm going to pass on this one. I just don't have enough knowledge on that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Havelock's a safe pick,
Okay.
but Northern
Yeah.
Nash is not a bad pick either, though.
In this next game, Southern Alamance, they beat Terry Sanford 47-21. And 71st, they running scored Fike 48-0. This right here is going to be an interesting one. This is you got a lot of speed and size and athleticism on 71st, and then you got humongous size on Southern Alamance. I'm going to see if Southern Alamance has lost one game this year. I was going to see who they lost to. I can't remember. It was Southern. Oh, it was Jordan High School. That's a 4A school. But I got 71st. I think they're the team to beat in the East right now.
Jim, they're my pick to come out of the East into the state championship, start of the playoffs, and that doesn't change. Could be a good game, but I just think 71st is there's I think there's a little more than a 2-3 here. It's interesting though that a 2-3 is meeting here. I think that's indicative of at least the seedings being close to right.
Right.
People complain about the seedings, but yeah, I'm all over 71st myself.
Gary, you got a thoughts on this one?
From what I've gathered and heard now, I think 71st is the team to beat on the east side. I think they go all the way to the state on the east side.
Okay. Now in the West, all top four classic teams: Hickory 2, West Henderson 3, Dudley 4, and Crest 1 advance. That's good seeding, really good seeding. And
exactly, it worked out exactly like it was supposed to.
And then look at this: 1 versus 8, 5 versus 4, 3 versus 6, and 2 versus 7. So I mean, you can't get any better seed than that. We'll start at the top here. Crest versus Dudley. This is going to be a really, really powerful game here. And this is one I kind of went back and forth. I'm like, who wins this game? Is it going to be Crest or is it going to be Dudley? And I just, for the life of me, I could not figure it out. And took a guess, and my guess was that Crest is going to win it in a squeaker. I think Crest. I think they proved themselves against West Charlotte. I think that West Charlotte win is going to make them tougher. Dudley struggled against J.M. Robinson. They were down in the third quarter against J.M. Robinson, had to come back. A little bit disconcerting. The one thing I'll say there, I worry about how much energy Crest exerted against West Charlotte. But that home field advantage is not going to hurt them. That's for sure. I go with Crest in the squeaker. How about you, Dale?
Yeah, Dudley's got to make it. So this bracket has worked out for me perfectly. Because remember, I picked, now I'm talking about it's worked out perfectly for me as per my pre-playoff picks. I did say last week that because of what West Charlotte had done and shown in the playoffs, that I felt like they would win against Crest. But my bracket, I can't change. And so my bracket proved out to be correct. I mean, those two teams were expected to meet, and I expected Crest to win it. And I think the same thing with Dudley. I may have said to you Friday night when Robinson was up, that was really a shocker because I thought that Dudley was maybe a 3-score better team than Robinson. So I don't know, Jim. I don't know if that tells us anything. I will say that Dudley's got to get on a bus and go to Cleveland County. So that's a little bit of a ride, the legs, etc. Uh, I think the kids at Crest can get over that energy that they exerted to come back and win in overtime against West Charlotte. I don't think that'll impact them. If anything, it'll be an emotional boost for them for having been down big too
Right.
in relationship to this game. It was
Couldn't score against West Charlotte for most of
exactly
basically for about 3 quarters or so. But
that's right. So I think that's a motivator to say, wow, we were down and we came back and we won this thing. So I'm sticking with my pick, which was for Crest to go all the way to the state championships.
all right, Gary, what's your thoughts?
Tough. I'll say it's a tough call. I'm like you. I was kind of back and forth. I think the concern with me about Crest is last couple of games I don't know, they didn't seem to me, in my opinion, they didn't seem to play up the expectation. Maybe I'm wrong, and but Dudley, I don't know, they just seem like they got maybe the defense to do it. But if Crest shows up in this game, they could win it. But I'm going to go with Dudley. I could eat crow on this one, but I'm going with Dudley in a close one. And
Good deal.
Crow is good if it's cooked right. Trust
yeah,
me, I've eaten a lot of crow in my life.
So we'll go to the next game here, Pedro. So let's go Hickory
Yeah,
Tornadoes, and
exactly. Well, we're going to be
you know,
talking about that.
so last week West Henderson they easily dispatched Oak Grove 45-24.
hmm
And Hickory was all over AC Reynolds for the most of the game. I mean, just
Spank, spank, spank.
I mean,
Yeah,
they were just
Mm.
I mean, they were up probably 30 points at one time or so. And I mean, they pretty much handled AC Reynolds the whole game. They won 61-38. Hickory's offense is just phenomenal. And
hmm
uh, as much as Joe Glass would love for me to pick Wes Henderson so he can, shove this down my throat. And I know Wes Henderson is undefeated. I've already had the comments about this. Wes Henderson is a
right.
fine team. They keep on winning. They've winning by big scores on top of it all, and they're rolling. I like Hickory in this game. I think it's going to be a Hickory tornado night. So, Dale, what's your thoughts?
Well, Jim, it's two things. My bracket did not have Hickory being here. I'm looking back at my first round bracket, and if you remember, I did this little stuff of drawing kind of a line, a 90-degree line, top to bottom, because I called it a razor thin game, and I thought the AC Reynolds Hickory game would be a close game. It wasn't, and the winner that came out of it was not the winner that I picked. But I did pick the winner of that game to beat. I did pick Wes Henderson to make it to the fourth round, and I picked the winner of the AC Reynolds. I picked AC Reynolds to defeat Wes Henderson. I now have a higher feeling or thought than I did about AC Reynolds, and I don't think there's any question personally that Hickory wins this game. Um, they're not my pick. The only thing I can claim is if I could claim anything, be half a win, because it's still coming from the same previous point. But yeah, I'm picking Hickory, uh,
So West
and it
Henderson's we'll
matches.
see.
Yeah, it
See,
matches my brackets kind of, but not with the person that was supposed to be in this spot.
West Henderson's going to be seeing red in the form of tornado.
I agree.
Gary, what's your thoughts on this one?
well, this is the game I'm going to go to. I'm looking forward to it and all that. The quarterback, to my understanding, had last game he had over 500 yards passing, and he broke his own record earlier in the year. But I like Hickory in this one and all that. To my understanding, the other team, West Henderson, has a similar type of offense and a good quarterback. So it's going to be a good game to see, I think. And I'm going to go with Hickory.
So, Gary, you're going to need to be texting me, if you will.
Okay.
If you don't mind. I would like
Okay.
to stay on top.
Yeah.
Although, honestly, I think this is at least a 2-score win for Hickory. Now, I say that, and I'm just totally pushing aside that West Henderson's a really good football team. So I shouldn't be doing that. But I think Hickory has proven themselves to be an exceptional team right now. So I would like to stay abreast of the scoring, if you don't mind.
Okay, sure.
Or tweet it out. Get on Twitter and tweet it out.
It's going to be a good game. Definitely a good game to go to here. So
Yeah, you picked a great football game.
Yeah.
Although I think they're
It's-
all going to be great football games,
Yeah.
but that's going to be a great football game.
So we'll go down to the 4A here. You know, Rollsville at one time in the second quarter, they were putting a lot of points up against Fuquay. It was something like
That's
14
right.
or maybe it was something like 17-14 or something like that. And then next thing you know, Rollsville has a running clock on them, beats them 69-21. That Rollsville offense is explosive. I mean, just
Yeah, I
incredible.
remember us looking at that score, and I was thinking, wow, how can this game be so close? And it turned out not to be at the end. That's what matters. Where do you finish, right?
Exactly right. And then Cardinal Gibbons, they held on and beat a good Clayton team, 30-28. Clayton, they might be a year away. Might be a year away from going to the state championship. That's a really good program. There's great coaching, great athletes. Great everything with that program. So Rollsville, Cardinal Gibbons. Cardinal Gibbons is the established team. Rollsville is the up and coming team. I tell you right now, Rollsville is just, they got a quarterback that can just do about anything. One time I saw him, I think they were playing Wake Forest the first game. The guy had 400 yards of passing early in the third quarter, like 4 minutes into the third quarter. He already had 400 yards passing. I'm going Rollsville. I mean, they can just do anything on offense and enough defense to hold Cardinal Gibbons to bay.
Jim, the only change in my brackets is that I had picked Clayton over Cardinal Gibbons at the start of the playoffs. And I held to that last week. And I did have Rollsville coming out of the game over Clayton. And I still have them coming. I still believe they'll come out over Cardinal Gibbons. I still think Rollsville is the best team in the West. But there's another team that you're going to come to that's going to have something to say about that.
Oh, I agree. How about you, Gary? What's your thoughts?
I'm going to pass on this.
Going to pass. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we'll go down to this next one. And in the Battle of Wilmington, Hoggard beats Laney 43-10.
Mm-hmm.
And then Cleveland, I mean, this right here was a statement win if there ever was one. They beat New Bern. New Bern, before they had to vacate their championship, they won the 2022 4A championship. They're gone. Cleveland beats them in a running score, 56-13. Hoggard is a very even balanced team. They can pass the ball, run the ball with about equal efficiency.
Mm-hmm.
Cleveland has one of the best passing games ever, and they have a great quarterback. He's a dual threat. I think Cleveland has just a little bit more speeds than may have the most speed in the East, to be honest with you. I'm going with Cleveland in this game.
All right. So here's the statement I want to make about the New Bern game. There's a piece of wood. It's called a 2x4. And they used to be 2x4. Now they're about 1.5 by 3.5. What happened last week is that Cleveland went and got an old 2x4.
him right
and
between the eyes.
they just beat Newbern with that. So that was just way bigger. I did not expect that game to be that. I picked I picked Cleveland and Newbern to be in that game, but I did pick Cleveland to come out of it because I think Cleveland has something to say about Roseville being the best team in the West. So I think this game here is going to be a good game, but I do think Cleveland moves on to face Roseville. Again, look at the seedings. Stop complaining about our seedings, people.
I agree.
Gary, what do you
I
think
like
about
Cleveland in this. Yeah,
Cleveland's a real good football team.
yeah.
Really
I'll
good
take
football.
Cleveland in this one.
Yeah.
Okay, this is an interesting one. You know, Weddington got all kinds of grief this last year, or back in October 28th when the seedings were announced. Weddington got a number one seed, and someone asked their head coach, I think it was last week on Talking Spaces, on Twitter Spaces, about do you deserve number one? And he says, well, I really don't know. Maybe not, you know. But they're there. I mean, they've handled Chambers. They handled Charlotte Catholic. That Catholic game, 37-7, that was a statement win.
Uh-huh.
And we saw the game Grimsley versus Huff. I would like to say that I had higher expectations for Grimsley in this beforehand. They didn't meet my expectations. This game right here this is really a kind of a coin flip for me right now. I'm just not as excited about Grimsley, and I'm gonna pick Weddington in this one. I think Weddington and a squeaker.
So Jim, of course, if I look at my pre-playoff brackets, 4A's now busted, at least up here in the top half, and actually I'd picked Huff to win the championship, but I expected them to be playing Weddington, not Grimsley. That said, I have seen Weddington. I like Weddington. There's a lot of similarities with Weddington and Butler, a lot of similarity. And I like Weddington in this game, but I do expect it to be a close game. But I'm picking Weddington here.
How about you, Gary?
Wouldn't surprise me. Could see a game like last year, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was like Grimsley winning like 28-27, and I could see it kind of close like that. And it could easily be a toss-up. Could go either way. I'm going to step out on a limb and go with Grimsley. But if Weddington wins, it wouldn't surprise me. But I'm going with Grimsley in this one.
All right. Good deal. So let's go down here to the bottom part of the bracket. Butler, they handled Mount Tabor with ease, 49-13. I was worried about this, about how maybe the Spartans would give Butler something that they hadn't seen, but my fears were all worthless on that.
Right.
49-13, big statement win. Independence, they go up to Boone, they get on the Hip Mountain, and they slap Watauga around 34-14. I will say one thing, though, that Independence has got to be – that probably went away, Independence's way. If you remember right, Dale, Friday nights, it was more mild temperatures than usual, and I think that was the case at Boone. Mind you, it was probably cooler at night in Boone than it was in Greensboro, but it's different from playing 25 degrees or 30 degrees with a crazy wind versus 46 or 47 or 50 degrees. So this game right here, Independence, Independence has gotten stronger as the playoffs gone through. I mean, they beat Lake Norman 35-0, beat East Forsyth, beat Watauga. I know Lake Norman had lost one game. East Forsyth, I think, only lost one game, and Watauga, I don't think they lost a game the whole season. So
they were undefeated.
Going against Butler, I'll tell you right now, though, I don't know if Independence has is on quite on the same level. Butler, I expect a close one, but I'm going to take Butler in this game.
So this part of the bracket is exactly where I had set it. I set these two teams to meet here. I really didn't think Watauga would be a struggle for them. I didn't think they would face Watauga. I thought the Hickory Ridge, Hickory Ridge Mallard Creek winner would come out of that and beat Watauga. So Independence handling them didn't surprise me at all. I expected that once we knew the matchup was going to occur. I tell you, I saw these two teams play the last game of the regular season, Independence and Butler, and the only thing I can say is, DJ, you got a running back there that sophomore running back might be the best sophomore player, not just running back, but might be the best sophomore in the state. And you got to give that kid the touches. Butler is a complete team. They're complete in all phases of the game. They're top notch, top shelf in the kicking game, the defensive game, and the offensive game. There's no glaring weaknesses in any of or even minor weaknesses in any of those points. So Independence to win this game is going to require Butler to not be on point, I think. I think if Butler's on point, they win the game. And I do pick them to win the game. But I do know that things can happen. This is a huge rival game. DJ's already been on Twitter complaining that back in the day, so when DJ was quarterback at Independence and winning state championships, this game was being played at Memorial Stadium. No matter who was the head coach or who was the host school, be it Butler or Independence, be it Tommy Knotts or Mike Newsom, they played the game at Memorial Stadium. And they put stands in. I mean, they put fans in. One of those games was over 20,000 people at the game. So there's a little bit of complaints about this game being played at Butler, which is an undersized 4A stadium. Honestly, and I don't know that DJ or anybody from Independence is listening, but Independence could actually complain to the NCHSAA that the stadium doesn't hold 4,000, the required 4,000 people, and thus move the game. This has happened before. This happened in Charlotte when West Charlotte and Olympic played in '94. Olympic had a home game against West Charlotte. West Charlotte complained, and the game got moved to Memorial Stadium. But I don't know if the game would be moved if that was done, but hopefully I'm going to have to get there early to make sure I'm on the field. Talking a lot. I'm sorry. I picked Butler. We'll talk about it.
So, Gary, who's your pick on this one?
I think I'm going to go with Butler. I know when they played earlier in the season, I think Butler won like 35-23, but I'm sure that, they're not the same. Both of them's not the same teams now as they were then, and I'm sure they've both improved. I could see a closer game, and, anything can happen. The Independence could pull it out, but I like Butler in this one.
All right. So I thought we'd do, just to humor me here, I thought we'd go through each one of the classifications about which game, if you had to pick one game on the East, between like in the 4A East, there's 2 games for the 4A East, 2 games 3A, or 4 games for the 2 games for the 4A West, 2 games for the 3A West, so forth. Which one you take? Butler, Independence, Grimsley, Weddington. I don't think there's a wrong pick on that, but which game would you think would be more interesting to watch? I think it's going to. I mean, right now to me it's Weddington, Grimsley. Obviously, you're going to this to the Butler Independence game?
I think they both and both of them are not hard trips for me. They're both approximately the same amount of time. Uh, Weddington might be a few more minutes longer to get to it. On paper, you think Weddington and Grimsley is going to be a closer game, but there's a lot of other factors that makes this Butler Independence game a big game because
It's a
they're huge
rivalry.
rivals. Yeah. That's a rival in every sense of what rival means, both a traditional rival and you also have teams that are considered rivals because they maybe meet in the playoffs because they're both, really good. You can
Of
expect
course, like
that they're going to
Albemarle and Thomasville, year after
exactly.
year.
So we got both of that here. We've got both a traditional rival, meaning they play in the regular season, the schools are near each other. And also historically, both of these teams have a lot of historic big games that they've played against each other. Coach Hales did complain about his student section support last week in hopes that they come out better on a Friday after Thanksgiving. That's a hard one to get. That's a hard one to get fans out on, believe it or not. So, but Jim, I think Butler Independence. I accept why you think Weddington and Grimsley.
How about you, Gary? Which one would you, if you had to pick between the two games, which one would you go to?
I think I
Butler
would
Independence
probably, I'd probably go with Grimsley and Weddington on that one.
What about the East? You didn't ask about the East? Yeah, because I would pick between them.
Well, Rolesville Cardinal Gibbons. I mean, that's one game. I think if you pick that game, it's because you want to see how good Rolesville is. I mean, Rolesville's just dominant. This game here is going to be a lot closer. You probably want to see game. Yeah. You probably would like to see that Cleveland quarterback also. This is the game I'd go to.
That's the game I'd go to too.
Any thoughts, Gary?
No thoughts on mine on that one.
Okay. So 3A got Crest versus Dudley, which I think most of the state would probably want to go to that game. West Henderson and Hickory, that's the game I'd want to go to be honest with you.
That's the game I'd go to too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think there's any question I'd go to that game.
I think a lot of fans would, but a lot of the purists in this, because Hickory and West Henderson, I mean, they're both undefeated. It's day after Thanksgiving. I mean, that's crazy.
Well, you're going to have a good atmosphere.
And actually, is Dudley's undefeated too, if I remember right. Yeah, Dudley's undefeated and Crest is undefeated. So all four teams in the 3A West are undefeated.
See, football in Cleveland County is great. Going to any Cleveland County stadium to watch football is awesome. But you're going to have the same kind of atmosphere at Hickory. You're going to have two teams that may have a little more association with each other, West Henderson and Hickory, than does Dudley and Crest. I just think you're going to get a better all-around experience at that game.
I do too. How about you, Gary?
Yeah, I think the Hickory and West Henderson is going to be a real exciting to watch. I think there's going to be a huge crowd there, and also it's going to be a good football atmosphere. It's going to be a really good game. And I'm sure the Crest and Dudley will be a good one, but there's something to me it's intriguing about this game with Hickory and West Henderson. I think that's going to be a good game to watch.
Gary, do you know Bob Duckworth?
I've heard of him. I don't know him personally, but I've heard of him.
Maybe you guys can say hey to each other Friday night.
Okay.
You want to know something about Hickory, he'll give you the information.
So on the East, here we got 71st hosting Southern Alabama. 71st is in Fayetteville. Mm-hmm. And then you got Havelock hosting Northern Nash. Havelock is in Craven County, same county as New Bern. This is going to be a decent game. I mean, this is going to be a good game. This one here is going to be a good game. I'd probably go to Cumberland County, to be honest with you. I like seeing size versus speeds, and I think that's what you're going to see here. And I'd probably pick that game.
Well, the other game, especially driving from Charlotte, that's a long drive.
Oh, that's a huge drive.
That's a long haul. But I think I would like to see 71st, and I would go to that 71st game. Yeah.
How about you, Gary? Any thoughts? Would you rather go near New Bern or would you rather go down to Cumberland County?
I'm going to pass on that one. Not like I said, I'm not familiar with the East that well, so I'm going to pass. I'm sure they'll all be good games, but I just not familiar with that area.
All right, we'll go to the 2As. Reedsville, Bunker Hill. I mean, Reedsville, one of the best programs in the state dynasty. You can go up into Rockingham County, or you can go to Cleveland County, which is probably the best county in the states and for football, for dominant programs. Shelby, Forest Hills, great. Reedsville, Bunker Hill. Something tells me, though, this Shelby, Forest Hill is going to be more exciting to watch. Though I'd go down to Cleveland County for this game.
I'd go to that game too. I'd be interested in seeing Bunker Hill, certainly, but this game right here is the game I would go attend if I could attend. If I were not going, this game is probably number 2 or 3 on my list of games to go to. It's almost just a little bit longer in time to go to Shelby than it is to go to Weddington. I think it's probably 10 minutes, maybe 10. Thing is, to go to Shelby, I can go to Red Bridges. I'm going to talk myself into going to Shelby if I'm not careful. I'll be going eating barbecue and going over there. That'll be a fantastic game.
So how about you, Gary? Which one would you go to? Would you go down to Cleveland County to see Shelby host Forest Hills, or would you go to Reedsville to see Reedsville hold the Bears?
I'll say this. What I meant to bring out about Shelby, they got a sophomore quarterback that's really got a good arm, and he looked really impressive against Salisbury. I was amazed by him hitting his target. And if you want to go see a game with a quarterback that can throw the ball, Shelby's an exciting team to watch. I would probably go with that one. Shelby and what's the other team? I forgot.
Forest Hills.
Forest Hills.
Yellow Jackets.
Shelby and Forest Hills. Mine went blank, right? But yeah, I'd go Shelby and Forest Hills. If you want to see an exciting game with a quarterback that can throw the ball, he's got an arm on him, and he's only a sophomore too. So they're going to look really good for the next 2 years with the program and all. That quarterback.
I think Shelby is wow. I mean, they impressed me. I watched them in the Lincolnton game, and that was impressive what I saw.
So with the 2A East, Clinton, Nash Central go over to Sampson County, or would you go to Elizabeth City to see Northeastern host Whiteville? I'm picking Whiteville to win this game, but I'd go to the Clinton Nash Central game. I want to see how good Clinton is, but I also want to see how good Nash Central is.
Well, Elizabeth City is a long drive for me, so I would be factoring that in. But just from if you could magically appear there, I would still go to the Clinton Nash Central game.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think that's the game. I'm certain that's the game I'd go to. Yeah.
You have any input for us, Gary?
Not on that one. I'm going to pass on that one.
Okay. So let's go to 1A here. Okay, you could go to Graham County to see Robbinsville host North Rowan, or you can go over to Andy Griffith area and see Mount Airy host Eastern Randolph. I would go to the Mount Airy game, and it has a lot to do with uh, Mount Airy is just a neat place to go. It's Robbinsville has probably got one of the best environments, but this game just doesn't excite me as the
as much as
Mount
that
Airy and
game.
Eastern Randolph game.
Right. I think that game's going to be more competitive. There's reasons I could want to go see both personally, but you only pick one. I'd pick that one.
What about you, Gary?
I think the Mount Airy would be the pick. I agree with you on that one. That would be the better of the two, I believe. And
So we'll go down to the east. Tarboro over in Edgecombe County is hosting East Bladen, and over in Cerro Gordo, that's in Columbus County, West Columbus, is hosting Wilson Prep. To me, it depends on my mood on that Friday. If I'm really sadistic and mean and stuff like that, I go to Tarboro because I just like to see a good old killing. But if I want to see a really good game, then I'd go to this West Columbus Wilson Prep, and that's the game I'd go to, West Columbus. I'd be happy after for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I was going to say about the Tarboro game, nothing to see here. And you know the winner and probably guess the outcome close. This game intrigues me in two ways. One, I believe it's shaped up to be what should be a competitive game, but I'm now even more interested in Wilson Prep and who are they? What are they? They're performing at a higher level than I expected they would perform at. So even though I had them this far, I just didn't have them performing this well.
And they have less than 200 kids in that school.
Yeah. So I'd like to just see that, but I think this will be a competitive game, Jim, of the two.
So I thought we'd go through one last thing, and then I'll stop. 1A, I got Tarboro versus Mount Airy in the state championship. Who you have, Dale?
All right. So that is who I picked at the start of the playoffs, and that's who I pick now.
All right. What about you, Gary? Who do you see in the 1A state championship game right now?
I see Mount Airy and Tarboro facing each other. Yeah.
All right. 2A, I have Clinton, and right now, believe it or not, I have Forest Hills going to the state championship game. I'm all in with Forest Hills right now.
I believe it. I pick Clinton and Shelby is who I have now. Now that Monroe's out, I've got Shelby.
How about you, Gary?
I'm going to go with, since I picked Reedsville from the beginning before the season started, I'm going to go with them along with Clinton. So I'm going to say Reedsville and Clinton.
All right. So everybody's high on Clinton, and then in the West, we're kind of a three split.
We're all three different. Yeah, we're
that's awesome.
Unless
now,
you're yeah, go ahead.
Now 3A is interesting here. The teams remaining, the team that I see going the farthest is 71st. I think they're in the state championship. And between these four teams, one thing I had someone mention to me that this in the West is the A game versus the JVs, and they referred to the West Henderson Hickory game as the JV. I think that's a bunch of malarkey. I have Hickory going all the way to the state championship. I think it's going to be 70 versus Hickory.
Okay, so my brackets filled out before the playoffs. I just want to keep emphasizing that in case anybody steps in. Has 71st and Crest meeting. And I still think it's 71st. I can be swayed to pick Hickory today. I wasn't at the start of the playoffs, but they seem to look to be playing the best. But now Chris knocked off trust me, an extremely tough West Charlotte team last week.
Right.
So, I mean, my bracket has put Chris there, but today's change might be to put Hickory in. I'd really have to think about that.
How about you, Gary?
I'll take on the East 71st. That's going to be a tough call in the West. There's three teams, Crest, Dooley, and Hickory. I think any one of them could do it. I'm like y'all. It's a tough call. A couple of weeks ago, I wouldn't went with Hickory, but I don't know. They seem like they're really shining good and all. So it's a tough call right now. I think it could easily be between them and Dudley, so I'm not sure. I may just go with Hickory, and say Hickory in 71st.
Okay. I was going to say, if you went with Dudley, we'd have another 3 splits decision. I agree with you, though, Gary. All 3 of those teams are just phenomenal 3A teams. Now, going to the...
But understand, Jim, my Crest pick is because that's inked into my bracket, which I consider to be solid.
Right.
But as evolving occurs in my head about what has happened, see, I have a lot more respect for Hickory now than I did coming in to the playoffs. So,
right.
You and I mean, I'm not far from just jumping all over Hickory and saying Hickory's going to be in the state championship. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
I may still stick with Crest, but it may change when those 2 teams, and I believe those 2 teams are going to meet next week. Okay, go ahead. 4A's.
So 4A, this is where it gets a little bit challenging for me here. I got Rolesville. I think Rolesville is going to be the best team in the East. Now, the rest of the team, Weddington, Grimsley, to me is a coin flip. Independence, Butler, I got Butler winning that. I think Butler has the best shot right now. So I'm going to take Rolesville and Butler, which is a rematch of a
game 1.
In a preseason game, not a preseason game, but a non-conference game.
First game of the season. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I'm saying the same thing too, because Huff got knocked out. Just so that it doesn't sound like, oh, you picked Butler. I picked Huff thinking about intangibles might get Huff to where they have not been able to get to date. At some point, a team that's loaded with players is going to get over the hump. It took Butler a while to get over the hump with Independence. It took Mallard Creek a while to get over the hump of Butler. I don't know if Grimsley is Huff's hump, but they certainly are right now. But I do like Butler, and I've said all playoffs, Butler's the most complete team I've seen. So I say now, today, Rolesville and Butler.
All right. Gary, who you got in the 4A state championship?
I would go with Butler and Rolesville. There could be a couple of teams out of the West that could do it, but I would probably go with Butler as of right now.
Gary, that's a good point, because the West is just such a brutal region to come out of. I mean, there's still 4 very good teams. All 4 of the teams that are left in the West could give Rolesville a good football game. And under right circumstances, certainly could beat them. Whereas I will not say that out of all 4 teams that are left in the West, though I do believe Cleveland, I don't know. Maybe I better backtrack on that a little bit, that statement. I do think Cleveland, Hoggard, I don't know. We got 4 good teams over there, too. So.
All right. So, guys, any lasting thoughts? We've been talking for almost 2 hours.
I'm about done on my part. So happy Thanksgiving happy Thanksgiving, by the way.
Yeah.
And Dale, thank you for having me on and all. So,
You're welcome anytime.
yeah.
Yeah.
Anytime you want to come on, you're welcome. And if you got anything you want to specifically talk about,
Yeah.
you're welcome to bring that and talk about it. Thanksgiving's going to be turkey. I mean, not turkey for me. We're not going to do any turkey this year. We're just doing chicken. Most of the family doesn't like turkey, so especially the grandchildren, they don't like turkey. So they do like my chicken. So the brine is just done. I'm gonna soak it overnight, and then I'll throw it in the smoker in the morning. And we'll have turkey. I mean, excuse me, chicken, and my daughter makes a great mac and cheese, and we'll have the candy yams. We'll do all the other stuff that you do on Thanksgiving. Just no turkey this year.
Yeah, mac and cheese always sounds good, but
All done right. I don't even know if you can do mac and cheese wrong.
yeah,
That stuff's just good. Uh,
exactly right.
Gary,
Well, guys,
I somewhat envy you Friday night getting to go up to
Yeah.
Hickory.
Yeah. If
yeah, that's
nothing
good.
happened, if nothing comes up, that is, I'm planning on it. If nothing comes up, that'd be a good game, I think, to watch. It'd be exciting. I think there's going to be a lot of passing going on in that game. So,
Right.
How far is Hickory from Mooresville? About an hour or so, or Statesville,
you
40.
probably do it. Well, for traffic and all, you might say an hour to 45 minutes to an hour, just depending on traffic
Yeah,
and
I was
all.
thinking
So, yeah,
45, so maybe 45 to an hour. Just drop on 40 and boom,
yeah.
or how far is
It's real.
Hickory High for the interstate?
About 15 minutes, maybe 20. I'm not sure. It's 15, 20, give or take. Maybe not that much.
I mean, I could go over 85 to 321 up, and I think for me it'd be about an hour, a little over an hour
It'd be about 3 hours for me, I bet you.
to get over to Hickory.
Yeah, because I'm on. See, I can walk. I could actually walk in 3 minutes, 4 minutes to I-85 from my house.
Right.
I'm on exit 165. Of course, that joins into I-40, and I-40 in like 3 miles up the road when it consolidates. We'll say around exit 259 or so. And
Mm-hmm.
I guess Hickory's around what exit 130 or 140 or something. I can't remember what it is. I know it's between 150 is around Statesville and 100 is around Morganton. I guess Hickory's around what 128, 130 or so. Uh, so it's
Yeah,
probably 130 miles away from my house.
it'd be a little bit of a haul for you. Not
Yeah,
too
well, you know what?
bad,
It wouldn't take
but
me 3 hours. It would take me probably
no,
two and a
take a
half
little over
hours.
two, right around two
Yeah,
and a half, maybe two to two and a half. Depends
but I'll
on
tell you,
your
I
driving.
don't drive at night like I used to. So, well,
Well, I
guys, I'm
think,
gonna have to drop off here. I'm losing my
Okay.
voice,
yep.
but got some things I
Where are
need to
you
do.
going Friday night, Jim?
I'm probably going to go to that Cleveland Hogger game's my guess.
Okay. I just was trying to just getting in my head where people were going to be, and uh, I'll be checking. Hopefully, you'll tweet out some scores. I know you do on Facebook, but if you might can tweet a score or two just so I can keep up with that. That would be great. I right now, unless things change, I'll be at Butler watching Independence. I could slight shift to Weddington because they are pretty close to each other, but I don't think so.
All right.
All
Well,
right.
guys, let's tell you what. We'll go ahead and wrap it up, and
Okay.
Guys, it was good seeing you. Jim West, Gary Ashley, and Dale Ross. We'll catch up with you next week.
One more thing.
Oh, sure.
Friday night at about 11 o'clock, check Twitter. You'll see Langston Works will create a place called Talking Preps. It'll be, say something like 4th round playoff wrap up or something like that. And Jim and I'll be there talking about the games from Friday night. So come join us on Twitter. Twitter Spaces, you can listen to us. It's not typing, although you can. I guess you could type somewhere. I don't know. I've never seen.
You can type and make comments and stuff, but it's mostly listening.
Exactly, mostly listening. And if you want to say something, Gary, if you want to say something, if you want to join us and say something about the Hickory game, I'll bring you on so that you can tell people about the Hickory game. It's a lot like what I was mentioning the other night to Langston. It's if you guys remember Jimmy Thacker.
Yeah, Jim Thacker back in the early 80s, Billy Packer, Jim Thacker, and Bones McKinney.
And we also had we had a call-in show here in Charlotte on the radio stations, and Jim Packer was did that too. You call in, listen on the radio, and mostly people called in and talked about the recruiting and who might be going where, etc. And I view this Twitter Spaces as something similar to that format of the old call-in shows. And anyway, y'all come join us Friday night. We kick off at 11.
Sounds good. Well, guys, I'll catch up with you next week then. Take care.
All right, take care.